Much love. T-Web. Why are you guys doing this to me?
Tease was good. Tease was good.
Why are you guys doing this to me, bro? My man, what a ride. 15 years flew by, and we all witnessed your greatness and true character of a fighter. Your storied career couldn't have happened to a more deserving person. This is a good one because this guy's been with me since the beginning. I'm coming, hold on.
Hey, who left this bowl of onions here?
God damn, I was not ready for this. I knew I wouldn't be, and even though I fully prepared myself ahead of time for losing one of the baddest asses to ever do it to Father Time, it still hit like a cinder block. Dustin Poirier just capped off his legendary run in the UFC with a trilogy bout against Max Holloway for the BMF title. I don't really think we needed to have a fake belt to justify this as a pay-per-view main event, but whatever. As everyone expected, it was a nail-biter from beginning to end. Fairly competitive throughout, but this time it was clear that Holloway had eclipsed Poirier in ability and skill set, getting going fast and pretty soundly, bagging every round almost, save for like one of them, by peppering Dustin's face clean off the skull, even managing to drop him in the first round very early. Now, I'll admit, I had Holloway winning this one, and he's definitely my favorite fighter on the roster, probably, but this put my heart in the bottom of my ass. When Dustin got rocked and Max pounced on him for a finish, I was posted up like, he managed to survive because he's one tough son of a bitch, and actually managed to return the favor by sending Holloway to the canvas in the second. And again, despite my love for Max, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna do it! This was one of those matchups that's bittersweet because yes, it's a kick-ass fight that definitely warranted the rubber match, and we knew it would fuck hard, but no one wanted to see either of these guys lose. With that being said, part of me would have loved seeing Poirier go out on a win, of course. He came damn close, but alas, this was a very different Max Holloway from the one back in 2019 that looked like someone stuck an air vac in his orifice and didn't pay attention to the PSI. We already saw this with the Justin Gaethje fight, but lightweight Max Holloway is a goddamn problem. He went most of his career relying on volume striking because he didn't seem to have the most explosive pop in his hands, but that was evidently not really true, because man can whack when he's not draining himself to get to featherweight. That combined with him getting better with every fight and still being in his prime years had me thinking he'd probably be a good bet ahead of Poirier this time, especially with Poirier coming off a year-long layoff. I expected this outcome, but I'm glad we didn't just see Dustin go out there and get cock-stomped in his backyard. I'm glad it was a barn burner. I'm glad both parties had their moments. Dustin didn't come away with the win, but he put on a trademark banger fight, and true to his word, he announced his retirement to his fans. Then we got a nice little package from the UFC to commemorate his iconic career, and he walked off into the proverbial sunset with his family and his faculties. I know this might sound weird, but this is maybe the most perfect retirement of all time. I know it would have been better had he actually beaten Max and started off feeling like he's still the guy, and I know there are cases of like Khabib and GSP retiring while still on that Mount Olympus, but this just felt like the perfect bookend for Poirier specifically. If there was ever a title to be bestowed upon the best to ever do it who was never undisputed, then Dustin Poirier is claiming that. He's that guy. I love that he had an entire pay-per-view just built around him, around his last dance. Even if it wasn't the strongest pay-per-view in terms of overall quality, I didn't really care. I love that he was against a fighter who's basically a mirror image in terms of fan adoration and the ability to make every fight the coolest thing you've ever seen. And I love that it was in his hometown, more or less. It was in Louisiana. Oh, P.S. They better fucking go to Hawaii for Max when he's in the same boat. If they don't, I'm walking into Dana White's office and farting and possibly crapping on every piece of expensive memorabilia he owns.
You're always adding to this office and collectibles, but we have to talk about the card collecting and to this.
Oh man, I'm turning everything in this room brown if you don't do the Hawaii card. Do you hear me, boss man? Good. That's what I thought. Anyways, I love that he was able to go out in a war like this, and I'll say it, I just gotta be honest, I'm glad he lost. Thank God he lost. Before you start throwing dung, just hold on a second, let me explain. Sure, it would have been cool to see him win, I get it. Part of me wanted that. But then also, after getting the result, it had me thinking, if he went in there and smashed Holloway for a third time, coming off the back of being a pretty brutal test for Makhachev not that long ago. And with him only being 36, I would have been really worried about him wanting to stick around. I'm not trying to suggest that Poirier isn't a man of his word. I'm sure he would have actually retired and gone through with it to be with his family. But the itch to come back would have been there. If he felt like he could still hack it at the elite level, if he battered Holloway, you can't tell me it wouldn't be gnawing at him to try and get in there with Topuria. Him losing a competitive scrap is perfect because he can still hold his head high walking out of there. He didn't get his ass kicked. But I'd say he'll be more likely to actually stick to his desire to hang him up without taking unnecessary damage that would haunt him later in life. That's why he wanted to cut it a little shorter, didn't want to fight until his 40s. I think he's more willing to stick to that. And it being against Max Holloway is doubly perfect because we've seen them go at it before. We saw him bulldoze a debuting Holloway in 2012, clearly levels above. Then when they were pitted against each other in 2019, Max had improved every facet of his game to become champ at 145, and by that point it was a much closer affair. Issue for Max was he was going in there against Poirier in his absolute prime. Late 2010s / early 2020s Poirier was a nightmare for anyone. And at that point he was still just too versatile and packed too much of a wallop for the younger fighters. So he was still too good for him. But now with their third fight, Max is still in his prime years, but Dustin has hit the dreaded over 35 swamp. The swampy years. It's sticky and uncertain here. Ah shit, there's a human skeleton floating over there. Oh no, there's an alligator. I'm fucked. All the homies hate turning 35. Him getting beaten pretty handily in a fight against a guy that he was able to deal with in the past was the perfect way to solidify him walking away now. I wouldn't say Dustin's gotten significantly worse over time because again, we just saw him give Islam problems a year ago. But this was the first fight where he looked older and slower. He was still able to keep things interesting, but this was not a controversial result on the scorecards. Max won, he obviously won. He was just faster and better. Dustin Poirier will be sorely missed, man. I'm glad he walked away on his own terms, but damn it, I'm gonna miss the guy. He's just one of those that's never been in a boring fight. Just every time he stepped in there, spending back a decade and a half, you knew you were in for fireworks. He had a decent run at 145, and looking back, I really don't know how the hell he made that weight given how big he walks around. But it was really when it went up to 155 that he started lighting people on fire.
Loading up here, Mike, and that's a mistake. Bobby Green's a big trouble. Gaethje's hurt bad, but he's been here before.
Gaethje nearly out on his feet. Poirier continues to land.
But he doesn't have the wherewithal to clinch.
Dustin Poirier, goodness! Knockout! Oh my God!
Alvarez is still swinging though. Look at this. What a warrior, Eddie Alvarez. That's the Poirier finish.
That is it! Dustin Poirier!
Massive
He
hurt
hurt
him. He's hurt bad. Oh, Poirier's all over him.
Save for a KO loss at the hands of Michael Johnson, who's infamous for either being champ material or sucking donkey balls depending on which side of bet he got up on, and getting submitted by Khabib, which, no big deal. From him moving to 155 in 2015 up until 2021, he takes out Diego Ferreira, Nancy Medeiros, Joe Duffy, Bobby Green, Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez twice, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, and then Conor McGregor twice. Now that is a crispy fucking resume. It was a little more hit or miss in the tail end with him losing to Oliveira and then swiping Michael Chandler's neck and then getting knocked out by Gaethje in their rematch. And then telling the odds makers exactly where to stick it by coming back from a bad first round to send BSD crashing to the floor, then losing a title shot against Makhachev, and then of course another L to Holloway. So yeah, towards the end it was kind of win one, lose one. But even in the losses, not a single one of these matches can be described as anything short of box office. And him hovering around the top 10 in the toughest weight class for an entire decade is just ridiculous. Like, yeah, we always complain about the lightweight logjam, but that's because these dudes are just too fucking good. Dustin was just too good for so long. He's one of those that was able to build a crazy following purely for letting his fists do the talking. I mean, sure, he'd exchange some trash talk here and there, and he's a charismatic dude, but similar to Max Holloway, people just love him for his ability to put a hurting on people. If you had this guy on a main card, you knew it was going to deliver. The only one I can think of that didn't was his third McGregor fight, but I mean, what the fuck, what are you going to do? And he was beating Conor's ass before the leg break, so yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to ramble a bit about how special this guy is to MMA fans and how special his send-off performance and retirement and the whole thing was. It really was a great moment to watch live. Thank you, Dustin Poirier. Just thank you. Rest up and enjoy this next chapter. Thank you for always putting it on the line no matter who the opponent or the situation was. Thank you for all the bangers. Just thank you for all the memories. This last part isn't even scripted. I just thank you. Thank you, good sir.
You don't want it like you do. Let's go.
The great Don House working overtime there in the corner, trying to close that gash on Max Holloway's forehead. When you're a cut man, you get this assignment. You buckle up. Fifth and final round. 5 minutes or fewer to determine the UFC's interim lightweight champion. Will it be Dustin Poirier? Or will Max Holloway exit with a belt over each shoulder? Fifth and final round, here we go.